The best fried chicken in Texas. Brodys Country Fried Chicken. Texas born, Texas raised. A chicken joint with 35 years of service to our community. Thanks to our loyal customers and social media followers. Come try the best gizzards in Texas, the best tenders in Texas, and the best chicken in Texas. Call us at 830-773-9189. 830-773-9189. Don't forget, we have curbside service and delivery by DoorDash. Or find us on Facebook, Brodys Chicken. Rodees Chicken. Like us on Facebook.
The best fried chicken in Texas.
Brodys Country Fried Chicken.
That metal interview.
Sascha Gerstner is our guest for this episode of That Metal Interview podcast. And I am your host, James, and I will be taking you through this journey of Helloween. A great discussion about the band, the German thrash band or power metal band as you want to call them, Helloween. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, as only metalheads know what Helloween means and what it is. It's a German power metal thrash band from Germany, of course. For the people that don't know what Halloween is, they probably think it's something related to the American holiday, I guess, if it's American. The Halloween tradition of, dressing up in a costume and a uniform and going door to door, trick-or-treating, So anyways, this is not about, that trick-or-treating. This is about the metal band, the great metal band Helloween. And our guest is one of the guitar players, Sascha Gerstner, who has been there since 2002. He joined Helloween about that time, give or take. And he'll talk about that. Of course, he'll talk about his experience first jamming with Helloween and all that. Just great stories, man. You guys got to check this out. And before we go into the interview, for the people that know our podcast, I usually play a song of the band. So let's jam some Helloween. Here is their latest single. Here's some Helloween.
Decide and stand your ground, my friend. Refuse and your fall goes hand in hand. Decide, decide, decide. Is this the life you're chasing? Is this your own heart beating? Is this you who is feeling? Decide. Here comes the fear of the falling. We rise when you're calling. Light in the light. We are the flame in the fire. The voice and the choir. We're always nearby. take it. Is this the life you're chasing? Decide and stand your ground, my friend. The world will sure change in the end. Decide. Decide. Decide.
And there you had it. Some great, brand new, fresh, straight out of the oven Helloween, the dual vocalist band from Germany with Andy on the vocals and Michael. Anyways, so we're going to go ahead and jump straight to the interview, as you guys want to hear our conversation with Sascha Gerstner, guitar great, guitar extraordinaire of Helloween. Here it is. Enjoy. How is your part of the world at this time of the pandemic?
Oh yeah, it's not like everywhere else, you know. It's not like the best time to celebrate or something. So yeah, but I just miss playing live, the touring and everything. That's what I'm missing.
Yeah, well, hopefully, things will open back up again soon, and things are opening up here in the U.S. little by little, you know. Hopefully.
Yeah, I heard so.
Yeah.
I heard so. Bands started playing again, and yeah. So I just hope that we can come back on tour next year. But so far, I mean, it all comes down to people getting vaccinated, and then probably everything goes back to normal. Who knows?
Right.
Because you can't make plans these days.
Right. It's hard to tell. So let's So let's speak of your new album coming out June 18th. Helloween, self-titled Nuclear Blast Records. How long did it take to record this album? Was it a couple of months, a couple of years?
No, it was a couple of months. You know, we started collecting ideas during the tour in 2019, and then end of 2019 we went for pre-production to Hamburg, and we rented a studio out for 4 weeks or 5 weeks, and then we did pre-production, and then it took a couple of months to do the recordings and getting the mixes done and everything. So I would say it's been about 6 months or something.
So were you guys going for that old school sound, or were you just writing as you go along, or were what were you trying to shoot for? It sounds great to me. It sounds badass.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, well, we try to combine an old school feeling with the modern approach. And what we did, we recorded stuff on tape. You know, we went back to old recording techniques, and we used old gear to get the vibe of the 80s, but at the same time we wanted to have a modern approach. And also, you know, for a band that is around for such a long time, you want to combine all the eras the band has seen on one record, and that was the goal here.
Awesome. The song that I heard, I mean, the new stuff is just awesome. I saw you guys, of course you weren't there in 1988 or 89. I saw Helloween in San Antonio, Texas, back in the day. I won out and all that.
Nice.
Yeah, so I grew up with the older albums, you know. But as
yeah, perfect.
as time goes along, I mean, you guys are doing a great job, and it's just awesome to see that Halloween still works and exists.
Yeah, we just kept it running, Like I'm in the band now for 18 years, and
Yeah.
and Andy is much longer in there, so we kept it going, the whole time. And now since Kai and Michael are back to the band, it just got even better. They're a great addition, and there's so much talent in the band. It's nice to have that. And then we could see that on tour when we've been on tour, and it was just a bigger family now. And then with all this talent that happened, we just started to make this record because it just made sense, and now everything is combined. I mean, for someone who was there 88, it must be great because you could clearly hear there's this old school vibe. Like as I said before, we went on to use old recording techniques like people have used in the 80s, and we recorded with Ingo's old drum kit. Danny was playing on Ingo's old drum kit. We recorded to tape. We've been using old amplifiers from the 80s. We've been using a lot of old effects and stuff to get that kind of vibe and magic happening, and the same goes for songwriting, but at the same time we also had this modern approach to bring like this 80s vibe into the modern world. And so I think for longtime fans as yours who was there in 88, it should be kind of a flashback if you listen to the record, but at the same time I think younger Halloween fans can appreciate what we've did here.
Yeah.
Without sounding outdated or something.
Exactly. That was one of my questions. What can us fans expect on the new album? But there you go. You just answered it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So who writes the riffs and the lyric? How do you guys go about that writing process?
Oh, we have in Halloween, that's a nice thing we have. We have a lot of songwriters, so except of Michael Kiske and Danny, everybody else was writing songs, and we're a big family. We had 2 producers on this record, and we have our management, which we have been working with for a long time. And so we all sat together, we played our demos to each other's, and then we would just decide what kind of songs would be perfect for the album. And then of course during the pre-production phase we tried out and practiced stuff, and we just tried out tempos and chord changes and whatever,
Yeah.
So to have like the band's vibe in there. But basically it's like a lot of songwriters in the band, and that gives us a great variety.
Awesome. That's so cool. This is a strange question. I play in a band myself, local stuff, local band scene. But I've never seen a band with 2 vocalists, 2 singers. It's cool. I saw what you guys are doing, and that's awesome. And that's very unique.
Yeah, it works.
How do you guys go about that?
Unique, as you said.
How do you split the vocals? Who sings what, or who decides that?
It comes pretty naturally, It's like first of all, I have to say it's great if you respect each other, and if you like each other, that helps a lot, and that's what happened basically. So Andy and Michael, they get along very well. They would hang out all day, and having a great time, and so there's no like big ego involved or something. So they would just split vocals like. We had a lot of practice with that, because when we rehearsed for the tour before we did the album, we had to do that already. You know? So and Michael would sing songs from the newer era, and he would split vocals with him on the older songs, and so there's a big friendship, and so it's very easy to decide. And for this record, also we have a great producer, Charlie Bauerfeind, who was totally into it to reproduce that vibe that comes off stage when we're playing. And he did the same thing with the guitars. We have 3 guitarists in the band, and it was just fun to see that we wouldn't have to fight over parts or something, because we had Charlie, who was basically saying, "Hey, listen, guys, I want to have the vibe of the live show, which I experienced when I saw you playing live. I want to have that on a record. So I want you to perform everything that comes up to your mind, like every idea. I want to record everything, and then in the end we decide what parts fit together until we have the same vibe that I can experience when I'm seeing a Halloween live show.
So let's speak about yourself here. At what age did you start playing guitar, and how many instruments can you play?
I was 13 years when I started playing guitar, and before that, I was always singing, and I was always playing synthesizer stuff. You know, when I grew up, I was a lot into new wave and you know the whole like Gary Newman and Duran Duran stuff before I even discovered heavy metal.
Yeah.
And so I can play the piano, I can play synthesizers, and I can sing, and of course I can play bass guitar and just a little bit drumming, so it's enough to compose. And yeah, and then you know, and then when I was 13 years old, my uncle he's a great guitar player, so he gave me like all this, like every weekend he would record on cassette. He would record music for me, music he likes, and then he came up with, you know, with all these hair bands and rock and roll bands, and also then at one point he just introduced me to Michael Schenker. So I was listening to MSG, and the first time when I heard these kind of guitar solos, I was like, man, that's what I want to do. I want to play the guitar, you know? I want to play electric guitar. So that's how it started, and yeah, so I never lost my taste for diverse music, so I'm always like very open. I also have on the side, I have my solo project Palast, which is more into synth rock kind of thing. So I'm very diverse when it comes to music, but my heart that burns for guitar just got lightened up by my uncle when he gave me all these bands and music. So I was a lot into later on into Steve Lukather or Toto and then Saga and all these prog rock bands as well. So that's how I started playing guitar. And then when I was 16 years old, so because I was practicing as a maniac. When I was 16 years old, I already was booked by older musicians in the studio to play guitar on their records.
Nice.
Which was pretty awesome, you know, because I was this young guy in my town, and everybody knew me, and everybody was talking about this young guitar player who can play like adults can play, and that's how it actually started. That way, I got discovered by several people, and then, you know, when I was 19 years old, I got to meet Charlie Bauerfeind, who later introduced me to Michael Weikath. So, and then when I was 25 years old, I joined Helloween.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. How did you land the Helloween gig? How did you come about in contacting them to be in the band, right? Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's just the funny part, because back then I wasn't in the metal scene anymore, because you know, before that I played with a band, Freedom Call, which is also a power metal band from Germany.
Uh-huh.
And when I left them, I wanted to go more into in a studio direction, and I was producing and writing. I was doing a lot of pop music and alternative rock. You know, it was the beginning of the 2000s, so when all this stuff happened, and I was kind of off the old school metal scene, and at one point, just my phone rang, and it was Charlie Bauerfeind who remembered me being around, and so that's what I tell a lot of younger musicians. You know, when you're young, you're being impatient, and you want to be successful, and you're practicing, and you're having your bands, and you play a lot. But you know what pays off is stay around and do music, and you will meet people at some point, and sometimes there's a delay in between, you know, from the point where you meet them to another point where there's like a chance to do something with them or with someone else they know, you know, and that's how it happens. So I was recording with Charlie Bauerfeind before, and then years later he remembered that I was around, and he thought like I would be a perfect fit for Helloween. And that's how it came up. So he called me one day, called me up and told me, hey, listen, I know you're not like in this type of music at the moment anymore, but you know, it's a legendary band we're talking about, and it's Helloween, and if you're interested, I would give your number to Michael Weikath, and he might contact you in the next couple of days.
Wow.
So what happened is that day when Charlie called me up telling me that Michael would call me in the next couple of days, I had a date with a girl and I was like in a rush, I just came out of the shower. So, and Michael, he called me right after Charlie, like 30 minutes later. So it was not like in the next couple of days. He called me 30 minutes later, and I was in a rush, and I told him, listen, just tell me what you want because I'm in a hurry. And so later, when I was in a band, later he told me that he was kind of impressed because by that time he got tapes from other guitarists, like who wanted that job. They were like sending him tapes and showing off their skills and stuff like that. And then he would call me up, and I would go like, "Tell me what you want because I have to go. I'm on a run." So he found it quite impressive, and that got him on the hook somehow. Because he thought like, "Wow, that's the first guy who doesn't send me guitar tapes and stuff."
Yeah.
And then the next days we just went on the phone and we were talking, and there was this instant connection from the beginning between him and I, and we both love like old late 70s, early 80s rock music, and we have the same type of taste, even though we have this big age gap,
Yeah.
But still, we love a lot of the same guitar playing, and we have the same feeling about music, and that's how we got instantly connected. And the other thing was just humor, because he was inviting me to Tenerife for a couple of weeks to hang out with him, and that's the thing that keeps a band running is that you have to get along. At one point, everybody expects you to play good. That's what they expect, and more or less, but it all comes down to social skills, and that's what happened. We would hang out and would have a lot of fun, and we would laugh about the same stuff, and then we would start playing guitar together, and we figured that we just like each other and that we like the music, and so that's how it went out.
Yeah, I've spoken to many musicians in interviews and stuff, and most of the musicians talk and speak of the same kind of story about. It's not just about playing with a group of guys. You have to get along like a family, I guess, right? So
yeah, that's what it is. That's what it everywhere. I mean, not even in music, everywhere. I mean, if you join a band, and especially a band like ours that is going to be on tour for a couple of months, and in the studio and spending a lot of time together, it's like a family. Like I really can say, and especially now after 18 years. Helloween is a big part of my heart. It's my family, and when you're family, you have to stick together and you have to get along. And if there's anything happening, you have to solve it. If there's any problems coming up, and of course, and like in the best family, stuff happens, and you don't have to be on the same track all the time. You have to kind of figure out stuff if something comes up, and that's what good families do. If you love each other and if you take care of each other, you just want to solve problems and you want to stick together. And before Kai and Michael came back to the band, the rest of us 5 guys, we worked it out. We've been on tour for such a long time. We've made a couple of great records, and we just know each other so well. And it was a perfect machinery running, And then Kai and Michael came back. Michael, for instance, he felt instantly in the right place. He was like, "Wow, that's a totally different Helloween band that as I knew before," and he felt like really, really, really well about this, really good about it. So
wow,
and that's how it turned out. And Kai, he was doing gamma ray for a long time, and of course he was used to that,
Yeah.
And while we've been touring together, I think he has the same feeling that's like just a bigger family now, and we're having a great time, and that's why we've been able to make this record.
So how did you feel when you first put on your guitar and the whole band was in the same room? How did you feel when on the first song? How did that feel?
Well, actually, I have to say everything. Let me say this thing for people who are not in the music business or who aren't that experienced. I have to say everything you could imagine is most of the times the opposite. Like if you join a legendary band and you're thinking like, okay, now I'm like in the top league and now everything is very like professional in a sense of, like let's talk it down to a German thing, like being on time and being prepared for the rehearsals, and stuff like that. I gotta say, it wasn't that way. It was totally different. I learned so much things about being in a band and composing and the feeling of music with this band, even though I did such a so much things before. We're in a manner of what is professional and what is not. And when I joined Helloween and when we had the first rehearsals, it was very, very much rock and roll. So there was you had like it wasn't like being on time for the rehearsal, being prepared. It was more the opposite. It was more like, let's not be too prepared because we want to get in a vibe and we want to have a feeling here, and I mean, we're not working in an office, we're a rock and roll band, and that was like the first experience I had that not everybody would show up probably at the rehearsal first, and then it was quite funny because you would expect something else. Yeah. And then on the other hand, when we started, it was quite nice because we kind of split it up. So the first couple of days, it was more or less a jam session. So I was jamming along with the drummer by that time and with Marcus, who's an amazing bass player. So that was like my first experience. And then after a couple of days, Mikey would show up, and he would like, sorry, I missed the rehearsals the last days, but I had so much stuff on my list, and so it was like very chaotic in a way. Yeah. But, and that was a nice experience. And then, when I met Andy, that had a big impact on me too, because he is such a great songwriter and arranger. And so when we like the whole band practiced together for the Rapid Don't Come Easy album, that was a great experience, to be surrounded by such huge talent, but at the same time, cool and relaxed guys, nobody would point out at you, and there was no pressure, there was no like, and now show off your skills. It was more or less, how can we make a great album? Or what are your song ideas? Can you show song parts, or do you have written songs? We want them. We are in the need of having another songwriter in the band, and that's what I really like.
That's cool. That's what I call separating the man from the boys. When you join a full-time professional touring band like Helloween, you're part of a machine, I guess, huh? And you just you realize you're part of a whole machine. That's cool.
And there's things that matter that other people wouldn't expect. Like people would expect in a professional band, you're working like on time, and you would go like, it's not it. If you want to be successful with your music, it's music first. The music has to be good, at least for yourself. At least you have to like it yourself, so you can embrace it and give it that little bit of magic that you can give, and that's what I really learned in this band, because before, it was all, especially when you're a young guy, you want to show off your skills, you want to explore the world, you want to say, here I am, look at me, and then when you turn like really matured up musicians, they're way more relaxed about that. It's more about the art than your instrument. It's more of the art of expressing feelings and lyrics and songs and music, So and that's what I learned with that band. So yeah, nice.
So out of so many badass albums, I'm a fan of Helloween, of course, and rock metal. I mean, you guys have so many awesome albums and an awesome music and catalog. How do you come up with a badass set list for a gig out of so many great songs?
Yeah, well, it's quite hard because of course we could play for hours. The last tour, we almost did a 3-hour set.
Wow.
There you have a lot of classics you have to play, and then of course you want to play some newer songs, and then when you band like ours, we've been around for more than 35 years, Yeah. It's really hard to choose the right songs, but also because like the classics that you have to play are filling up more than half of your set lists.
Yeah.
So there's not much space left for experiments, and that's making it so hard.
That's a real hard job for sure. I would be I would have a hard time choosing if I was in charge of that. So,
Yeah.
so what?
But then on the other side, but then on the other hand, it's about the drama and the dynamics of the set, and then also, that's what I like about my band, that we're always doing what we want to do. We would just suggest songs, and then it's a very democratic process. So we would write emails. We would write emails. Hey, what about this song? Do you think that would be a great idea to play it? I like the song very much.
Yeah.
And then another guy would come in and say like, yeah, that's a good idea. I like the song too. Maybe we can play it here. And then two other guys joining the email and saying like, well, I'm not sure about that. And so we have this like very natural discussion about what we want to do, and it just comes down naturally. If
Very
we
cool.
agree, like the major part of the band agrees on something, we're just doing it.
Wow, that's so cool. So, what's your favorite song to play live?
Oh, there are a lot of them. I have to say there are a lot of them. There's not like one favorite. It's really hard to that. And also it depends. It can change from time to time. Like one tour I like that one song more, and the other tour I like the other one more. But there are classics. I like to play Eagle Fly Free, and I like to play How Many Tears, and there are a couple of songs you really love to play. I also like to play If I Could Fly. There are a couple of songs I really like to play, and that never changes. But then also from tour to tour, it can be different.
So, give us your best gig and give us your worst gig.
Oh man, I would say, because it's not so far away from what I can remember, but like one of the nicest shows I've played was, or I think the whole band has played, was the last show we did before the pandemic, and that was in Rock in Rio in Brazil.
Nice.
We did a little tour with Scorpions and Whitesnake, and that went great. That show, like this last show before we entered the studio, that was very nice, and we've been very hyped about that. And well, obviously, I think my worst show was really my first Halloween show. So, pretty much unprepared for everything that happened. Because like everything got so quick from the day when I joined the band to the first show on the tour. I would say, like in the beginning, I needed some time to adapt to the new situation.
Wow. So, who do you point at as your heroes? Who are your influences? Who do you look up to as far as musicians?
Oh well, I have a lot of musicians I like. I mean, like from my childhood on, people like Phil Collins and Peter Gabriel had a big impact on me as great artists and songwriters. And as I said before, then when like this whole synthesizer thing came up, I loved Gary Newman and artists like that, and then when we come to the guitar and rock and metal world, of course Michael Schenker was a huge influence for me. His playing still lives in a lot of notes I'm playing. I like that very much. And then of course, as a teenager, I went through all this typical guitar stuff. I was there. There was a period for every guitar here. There was a period when I started out with Michael Schenker and George Lynch, and then I discovered Yngwie Malmsteen, and then I had like this 1 year diehard Yngwie Malmsteen period where I wanted to learn how to play these arpeggios and stuff like that. And then I discovered Steve Vai when he came out with Passion Warfare. And, and I was like, oh wow, what a killer musician. And then like when you're starting out with an instrument, for sure you're having your periods with a style or with a musician, and so I'm influenced by a lot of people, and then when you grow older, you kind of go retro and you're remembering back where you come from. And that for me, like especially for songwriting, that for me is a lot of like the old stuff before I even started playing guitar. So as I said, I really love Peter Gabriel, and I really love old school rock music. I love late 70s and early 80s, Toto, for instance, and Chicago jazz rock bands, and stuff like that. So that had a huge impact on me for melodies and drama and chords and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a big variety.
Yeah.
So basically, I could say the 80s had overall the biggest impact for my musical being and understanding of music.
Very cool. So for people that don't know, talk to us about the Fly 3 Halloween Special Edition.
Oh yeah, that came down because we since a couple of years I'm endorsed with Black Star and I'm working with the German distribution together so at one point I just came up with this idea because I thought our fans would appreciate that, so I thought like, wow, that would be great to have a little practicing amp and then also can listen to your Halloween music and it's a great collector's item at the same time and these little things sound really serious, you can really plug in a guitar and it's battery driven and you have some quite nice overdrive there. I mean, if I remember back when I started out playing guitar, we didn't have something like that. It was like really hard to find a little practice amplifier who has great overdrive or something.
That's so cool.
So I thought, well, there are a lot of fans. I mean, I'm always receiving these videos on Instagram and Facebook where young fans playing solos. I recorded at some album or whole song playthroughs, and I see them with the guitars playing and stuff. And I thought, like, guys like these, they would enjoy something like that, to have their Halloween amp and doing playthroughs, and then also you have you can connect your phone to that and you can practice along songs and stuff like that. So that's how the idea came up.
Very cool. So are you done with are you finished with Freedom Call? Is there any plans with your former bandmates?
I've never continued with them. I mean, I left them in 2001.
Yeah.
And then, as I said, I was off the scene for a while. I was doing studio work, producing and writing. And since then, I didn't get in touch with them. I think I met Chris and of course I met Daniel, who was the drum at the same time. He was the drummer in Gamma Ray. And when we did the Hellish Rock 1 and 2 tours, I met Daniel, of course.
Yep.
And I never had problems with him. And the other guys, I just didn't see very much. I live in Berlin and they live down in south in Germany, so I don't see them very often. I would see them just at some festival or whatever, and then when I joined Halloween, I was so busy doing that, so there was never a talk about doing something with them together.
Okay, so what's next for yourself? Well, what plans are there with Palast and for Halloween? What can fans expect next from yourself?
Well, I mean, right now we just have to sit out this pandemic shit. We want to go on tour next year, and then of course we at some point this year or beginning of next year we start the rehearsals for that tour. And at the same time, I'm kind of reassembling my home studio right now because when we did this record, I like the 80s approach we had, and so I recently bought a tape machine from the 80s, from mid of the 80s. And
oh wow!
To reassemble my home studio to I was collecting a lot of analog synthesizers from the 80s and effects and stuff over the years, and so I want to use that to produce another Palast album, which might come out next year. I want to finish that off before I go on tour with Halloween. So that's my plan for now, and yeah.
Awesome. Would you like to send a message to your fans listening to this podcast?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you all out there, just stay safe and healthy, and I'm expecting you to go nuts when we can come out there to tour and see you, and hopefully we're coming to San Antonio as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Sascha. Thank you for making time, and we can't wait for the new Halloween.
Same for you, and thank you.
And we are ever so grateful for having the company of a guitar great as Sascha. His guitar work speaks for itself. And you guys, all you got to do is check out Halloween music and albums from 2002 on this way to 2021. And you can hear Sascha's great guitar playing and with the great legendary guys from Halloween, of course. And anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Sascha. And don't forget to subscribe Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow our social media. You guys know what to do. And it is my job to, ask you guys for your support if you guys like what you hear. So don't forget, we are also on Bandcamp. We're also appear on Anchor, the Anchor app. We also appear on Pandora. We appear on Podbeaner, a bunch of other podcast platforms, of course. And of course, all the well-known ones, the Spotify, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio, of course, we're on there too. So tune in radio. Anyway, so however you support us, YouTube and all that, thank you guys. We truly appreciate it. And in the future, we're going to start giving away gifts and prizes through our radio station, online radio station, jrocksmetalzone.com. So keep an eye on that. And don't forget to keep it metal.
That Metal Interview.